impressions of that guy?
I mean, I had the great experience to coach overseas and follow international basketball for almost 2 decades. And his his accomplishments in the EuroLeague and the accomplishments in the leagues that he's played in at such a young age is unprecedented. And when you think about the Europeans that have come to the United States, and for me to say that, and then to see him arrive on our shores and do what he's done, it still surprises me, but it doesn't catch me entirely off guard because of how aware I am of that league and the EuroLeague and the ACB, the whole thing. When I saw him in China for the first time, I was blown away at the quickness of his mind, the quickness of his ball, his shot, when really it's not like you're looking at some chiseled athlete. That's not how he's designed. But he is a basketball player, and he's fun to watch, and he's young, and he's just in a really exciting piece of the NBA landscape now. He really is somebody that you'd go pay to see. And you know, the fans of Philadelphia are going to be in for a treat when you just watch a young man play the game like he plays it. He is a basketball player in almost every way.
I guess the outside view is that maybe Dallas has exceeded expectations, what people thought coming into the season. I mean, how much do you think that's him? I know you have some other people, but how much do you see him being a part of that?
I mean, he is the integral part of that, and you get excited to play with people that pass the ball. You know, you get excited to play with people that are as good as he is. And I'm sure the city of Dallas and the organization just feels amazing that they tripped on somebody, they got somebody through a creative trade, an aggressive trade, that, you know, might be their version of the next Dirk for that duration of time. And I think that there is an excitement in the program. I think Rick does a great job coaching. And, you know, that bleeds into a lot of other areas, feel-good areas, where the role players are pretty darn good now. But he sure brings it all together.
After the last game in Phoenix, I know that the thing that you said really impressed you most is the connection between Ben and Joe, especially on the court. Looking back in that film, what impressed you the most between those two?
Well, I think my comments were really sort of global in that, you know, the whole team, like the Ben-Joel thing is a part of it. You know, you can put JJ in that mix and Jimmy in that mix. It's true, the Joel thing is a significant part of that, but it's deeper than that. In relation to just Joe and Ben, you know, just count the fist bumps. Count the connection of plays made together. To the outside world, that may not seem a lot, but it's a statement. Everything was made, was sort of scrutinized and sort of glorified or brought to, you know, media attention with the incident with the rebound, and I get it. Like, Joel got hit in the face and Joel reacted. But when you dig deeper, they're still figuring each other out. We're all still figuring each other out. And the interaction and the plays that were made between those two, the fact that we were shorthanded and those two, you know, jumped on board and led us, the collaborative sort of feeling that I think that those two shared and we had as a team are my memories from the Phoenix game.
Right, you had to lean pretty heavily on the depth with guys missing, Jimmy the other night, Joel before that. What do you feel like you learned about your coach on the road the last couple of years?
I feel like that there was a spirit and a balance in those young guys. You know, Furk hit a big shot during the Phoenix game. We were in a drought, and he came in and, you know, gave a step back and left it and looked pretty doing it, and we needed it. Then you saw Jonah come in and give us a real bounce, even with his, did he have 11 free fouls in the first period? 11 fouls in the first period. And so even like with the volume of fouls, and we wanted to play him, he came in both games. The Clipper game was playing off Joel and some of his offensive rebounds, and the energy that I thought he had during the Phoenix game. I thought he was really good. And, then you can get down a little bit deeper, and Demetrius came in and gave us some things, but particularly Furkan and Jonah. And Landry's been there. Landry's kind of been solid, but Furk and Jonah were the young guys in the bench were the ones to me that stood out.
With Jonah specifically, do you feel like, are you comfortable with him playing either front court position, or are you more, like, it seemed like you wanted to get him a lot of minutes next to Joel. So
Yeah.
he's more of the weak side shot blocker than like an anchor.
Yes. I like him in both spots. I like him a little bit how we used Rashawn last year. He played next to Joel a little bit, played some backup five more than a four spot. But I think he's got the ability to do both. The fact that he can stretch a floor and can do some of those second side things with rim protection and make plays at the rim is true if he's playing next to Joel. And then I just think that as a five, like, he can speed the game up, he can step out and hit a three, a little bit like I suppose I use Mike. I think Jonah's got more on the fly, got more of a quick bounce. But I do feel like as we sort of project his future, I think he's going to end up being able to play both. If you made me say one thing, I'd say more of a 4 than a 5. But I think he's going to be able to play both. And it is true, I do play him with Joel for some of the reasons that you just said, but mostly just to get him on the court. Before I left, I said I hope that this West Coast trip, was going to be something that we could play Jonah in more. And his work with the G League enabled us to do that.
Do you anticipate that going forward?
I think he's on the cusp of like holding on to a rotation spot. I do. I hope to continue to grow him. I think that he has earned it. When you start getting into like an 11-man rotation, that's not probably the world that I go to very often or choose to go to very often. Historically, we've been comfortable playing most times 9, sometimes 10. I will continue to do that, and I think that he, at this stage, is in the 10. And so I suspect that he'll be still receiving the minutes that, or some level of the minutes that you saw me give him in Phoenix and Los Angeles, especially when we're a little bit injured.
Sorry if you were asked this over the trip, but since we're past that Christmas holiday, how would you assess your team in relation to the Eastern Conference elites?
I think that we're still, fighting to figure some things out. I feel like if you go into Boston and we could have won that game, we could have won that game, then maybe my judgment is a little too harsh. I just feel when I put my head coaching hat on that we're a little ways off. Whether you look at just trying to get our guys to figure each other out, the starters, whether you look at trying to assess our bench, that we're not where we need to be. That is not a negative. That is almost a level of excitement. It's only January, whatever it is, and we got a lot more basketball to play. We got another half of the NBA season to play, and I'm excited to try to give you a better answer later. But as it sits today, that's my answer.
The last 2 years, January has been a big month for you guys. Have you paid attention to that? Do you have any thoughts on why do you think that's been the case?
I don't know why it's been the case. I feel that we put in work. I think that the good days do add up. I don't feel like there's anything more to it in my eyes than that. I bet if you really studied the roster, I bet there was also draped over some health, that we had success with health. We were fortunate with our health. But I think that we put in time. I think the system that we have in place, the path that I believe that we put these guys on, offensively, defensively, sports science, all those things, I think that they add up. I don't feel like we pivot. We are who we are. We've said what we've said and try to walk stuff down, keep putting in solid days and staying on path. I think that they do add up. I feel like when you look at this particular year's schedule, the month of January is a tough schedule. Like the opposition who you're playing, for the most part, you're not walking into any gym and saying, this is a sure win. Really, you hear my point. Really, do you do that anyways? But this particular schedule in 2019 January, it's a tough January.
When Joel posts up, you always talk about floor spots and trying to get in that. It seems to me, and tell me if I'm wrong, when Ben posts up, sometimes you have a little more of
Yeah.
some of those plays. If that's true, what's the reason?
Yeah, and it is true, Rich, and it's different. It's different. It's different spacing, and I think that with Joel, because stuff comes to him in warp speed, and he's been so dominant in first halves that you can book it. Like they're going to start coming, especially in second halves. Some teams just decide to do it right from the get-go, but I think that sort of static, stationary, I know where my outlets are type of notion with Joel as he grows his own game and passing out of his own game in the post, I think that's important. And we do different things from sort of static floor spots. I could put a piece of tape on the other four players, as you could too, where they go to like immediately. Then we react to whatever environment Joel sees. Ben's different. Like he can pick things apart. It's his nature to like find slivers of daylight. And we move out of it. We call it explosion, and people, it's like explosion. People are doing, you know, kind of almost what they want as long as somebody is to the rim. You'll notice rarely do we just move on the perimeter. Somebody's going to the rim and out, and then another person's to the rim and out. And so the movement behind it is more free-flowing. It's more unconventional. It's got some level of slashing and cutting to the rim and then re-spacing out as he looks to either, you know, take 6'10" and go jump hook or pick cutters apart and pass out of it. So the post spacing is very different with those two for that reason.
Thanks, Brett.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.